only come where we can talk to your parents, and your parents know that black lives do matter. Until that comes, a factor in the white Heiser household. Change will not.
Hey guys, and welcome back to the third episode of this quarantine diary with my cousin Chauvin. Now, 3 episodes in, I didn't think this is a subject that we'd be talking about, but here we are, and we've both spoken about it, and it's something that we're kind of passionate about in terms of talking about, raising awareness of it, as well as, you know, working with all of you guys, anyone watching this, and with our friends and family and the wider world that we live around, in terms of finding solutions to eradicate racism in any way, shape or form all around the world. The thousands of people that were protesting here in London, all throughout kind of central London and ending up in Hyde Park, we all stand with our American friends, brothers and sisters in their fight against racism, in their fight against police brutality. The stance that the protesters here in London are taking is not only with our American friends, though, it's about the racism that still exists here in the UK. Racism isn't an American issue. If anyone watching this here in the UK, maybe our friends and family watching this, who think that maybe, you know, this is just an issue at a distance, racism is still very much at home here in the UK. I know I've experienced it and been on the receiving end of it, and we'll speak to Chauvin and hear about some of his experience as well. But it still exists here in this country. Be under no illusion. It very much exists here in the UK today on our doorstep. And the word systemic has been used in lots of media outlets, both, you know, official media as well as on social media. Something which is systemic does not care about borders. It doesn't care whether you're in the US or the UK or China or Africa or wherever. Racism is rife throughout the world. You look at so many indicators across the world around prison populations, around poverty, around education rates, around wealth, around leadership positions in organizations. Racism is rife in all of these places and many, many more. And what we're seeing in America now has been in the past kind of a possible catalyst. But this time round, it feels that something is different. It feels like the catalyst this time round is stronger than before. And I think a big reason it's stronger than before is because people like us, our generation, have decided enough is enough, and we want to take a stand. And however that may be, whether that is a video like this with us talking about it, whether it's you educating yourself, whether it's you talking and sharing things with your family, all of these things are going to help us break down these barriers that we've lived with for so many years and have become so ingrained in our society. And one thing I finally want to say before we kind of just jump into discussing this is I want to take a second to realize how ridiculous and nonsensical the idea of racism is. So I'm going to say this sentence out loud. And when I was writing this sentence, like, it doesn't even make sense in my mind how this is a thing, right? People are judged for nothing else other than the color of their skin. Like, that sentence alone, the ridiculousness of that statement is crazy. Yes, we should judge humans. We should judge humans on their actions, on their decisions, on the good things they make, on the good choices they make, on the bad choices they make. But we cannot and should not prejudge people because of something that they are born with, and actually is something that makes them all beautiful, beautiful people, be it you're black, be it you're brown, whatever color you are. And when I was writing that statement, it really kind of resonated with me how ridiculous the fact that we're having these conversations and racism is still so rife in the world today, like how crazy and ridiculous it is. And so I hope us using this small platform we have, as well as any people watching this through their social medias or through their conversations, continue to have this discussion. And we all got to work together to find a solution, right? As much as it is about protest, it is about finding solutions and working together. And that means politicians, police, the youth, the elder generation. That means all of us and everyone working together to find a solution. So, Shomer, that was longer than I thought.
That was a great intro. That was a fantastic intro.
But I guess I open the floor to you, right? Like, what are your thoughts on what you've seen over the past week or 2 weeks, actually?
Wow, man. Where do we even start with this? Just from a video that surfaces the internet to real emotion being, put on social media and in the media, like news, to going to protests, to changes being made, to influence, actual meaningful influence, not just a teeth whitening kit, but actual laws put into place, charges given. Wow, it's been a heavy week, and this is going to be a heavy topic.
Yeah.
So
I think what are your thoughts on? So what we've seen a lot, in the past couple of weeks is about people talking about raising awareness, right, and using platforms to raise awareness. Right. And obviously this week we saw the whole kind of black square thing that was kind of on social media and stuff. What are your thoughts on those types of kind of things that in particular happen kind of on social media?
Yeah, so my view on social media, influence, let's say, a lot of people probably viewed that as a trend. I remember when I first saw the black box, and I was like, okay, Kevin Hart's done it. This was as soon as I woke up. Kevin Hart's done it. Who else done it? Logan Paul and LeBron James. I was like, okay, cool. What's this? So you click on the hashtag, you find out, okay, a lot of people have done it. And you read more into it. You're like, okay, so essentially blocking out everything else on social media and allowing for the actual hashtag to matter. Let people have a rest, let people think over, let people educate themselves. And I think it did allow for that, because I did not see anything on social media but black squares. And then also people's stories with a lot of information. I think it was a very insightful and awakening time, actually, where a lot of people mock it and, a black square doesn't change, doesn't bring lives back and stuff. But I think if you want to move on social media, then you have to move with the masses and be a part of that. And don't just think that everyone else has got it. You need to be with it. And I think, you saw, we've been speaking about it as well, social media and how it plays on your emotion. And social media has made the FBI, I read just before this podcast, it's due to the amount of people on social media saying they want something, that has led to the FBI taking that into action. And I think you could make real changes with what you post and how you post and what you share with your followers, whether you have 500 followers or 500,000 followers. You're still informing someone. It's all about that one person tells another person, and that other person tells another person, and that's how it changes. That's how it gets around. And making sure you're having that accountability on your friends, your family, and also yourself as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think so. I'm going to slightly disagree with you about the whole the black box stuff. Because I think it takes away. So I don't for one second disagree that we need to continue to raise awareness of this issue. But I think we're at a point now where we have awareness. All 50 states, as well as 13 different countries around the world, are protesting. We have awareness, and the people that are part of the solution to help this are not the people who are influenced by social media. What I think it does is it kind of, there's been lots of things that detract from the main issue, and I think something like that is detracting from the issue of finding a resolution to racism, because that is what we are trying to do, right? I think we're in no way, shape, or form we're not trying to achieve anything else. That is the golden outcome, right? That is what we are trying to achieve.
Right.
And so instead of making ourselves silent, which is how I felt the whole black box stuff kind of made it feel like, it stopped us having the conversation about what the solution is. Being quiet now is not the way to be. Now is the time to make the most noise, to have the most conversations, to talk to the most people, to have, you know, the talks with politicians, with police, with friends, with family. And I think that was kind of a bit of a distraction that actually people use to kind of maybe further a personal agenda, to show, you know, kind of, oh yeah, I'm part of this trend too, rather than actually, you know what, I've got something meaningful to say about this, and I want to be part of the solution. Posting a black square does not show me that you want to be part of the solution.
Correct. And that's in fact why I didn't post a black square, but I had a black background with what it was. Let me just bring it up. And it said, so this was amongst, if you imagine it, like I was talking to my boys when we were doing our podcast, and we were looking at our feed, and it was black squares, black squares, black squares. And at the same time, they went, oh, look at yours though. And it was, not being racist isn't enough. We must be actively anti-racist. We want to see everyone be a part of this movement. If you aren't with us, you're against us. And for me to do that and kind of go against posting a black square to follow the trend, it was to inform people that you need to speak up. You need to speak out. Like, not being racist isn't enough. Like, I know people who really embrace the black culture and, you know, listen to their music, do their hair a certain way, and they have tons and tons of followers, but yet not spreading that awareness. Now, that's not to say they're not doing anything behind closed curtains. Like, they could be donating, blah, blah, blah. But when you have a reachability of 20,000 people, 10,000 people, you do have a real influence.
It's your duty.
And with that comes a sense of, like, responsibility.
100%. All of us now have, we all have a platform, right? No matter how big or small. You know, we can freely post this on YouTube. We can post things on Instagram. Every single person today has a platform. And even if you influence one or two people, it's these small pillars of change. It's these small bricks of change that they may not seem significant, but when they happen in multiple places and they happen all at the same time, it builds a bloody big brick wall, and that's what we need to knock down, right?
100%.
And
100%.
So no matter how small the action you think you're taking, whether it's, you know, watching a video or something that maybe Shoma or I have posted on Instagram, or you watch this video or whatever, even if you decide to take a small action, which is to, you know, watch a 5-minute video to educate yourself on how a black person feels today in the world. That immediately makes you not totally understand and put yourself in the position, because it's very difficult to, unless you are a black person, to really understand what it feels like.
Yeah.
But you understand their perspective and view, and you can stand with them. That is progress. So even if it is something as minute as watching a video, watching this, whatever, don't feel like your action is insignificant. Small change put together makes colossal, groundbreaking change. So, I'll probably echo this like a billion times in this episode, but don't just like do something, please. It's just do something. This needs to change, and we need to try everything we can. So,
yeah, let's not forget like the outcome of all of this. Like, the FBI has now got involved because of social media, because there were so many people saying all 4 police officers that were involved with the murder have been charged. And I think we should address that, actually. So I'll address it. So at the time of this recording anyway, Derek Chauvin, actually I think it's disrespectful to name him first out of everyone. First of all, rest in peace George Floyd. I don't think that you're absolutely correct, it feels so different. Yeah. And I don't think this story, in my lifetime anyway, will ever get forgotten. It will never be forgotten. It will never, in especially such a peculiar time as well, of this like social global pandemic, and then so you got one disease of coronavirus, and then you've got this other disease of racism, because it is a disease. So condolences to
I think
the Floyd family.
I think we can touch on the police brutality bit as well, and I think the thing that I found the most distressing is, obviously with tensions rising and all of the protests happening, you cannot escape on social media. Like, every time you go on, there's a new video of some form of brutality, be it on protesters, be it on people being stopped and searched, be it anything else. And it really, really raises to me the questions. Not only you see it in the UK as well, right? So I'm not saying the UK is immune to this, right?
Yeah, 100%.
But obviously
no. We're just better at hiding it.
Yeah, we're better at hiding it, but I do think it is a worse problem in America than it is here.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's raised so many questions for me around, like, what is it that's part of their training, or the types of personalities that they recruit for the police, that they think they're God? What
literally
is
playing with
what
lives.
is they understand the role of a police officer, right? Is to protect and serve the citizens, right? The first word in there is protect.
Protect.
And that means you put innocent human lives first, right? That's what that means. And serve means you serve those people. You are there for those people. Right. You are not there to act as God, to decide who lives or dies, or who has injuries and who doesn't have injuries. And it's really, really raised some questions for me about the types of vetting and training that happens in the US in from a police perspective.
Well, quickly to chip in, it's been around social media that it takes longer to qualify as a barber than to become a police officer. Yeah, so
it's crazy, but so I think the training is one thing, but for me, the personality and the types of people who are police officers, and this is by no means this is a generalization, right? As is the case with many things, there are a small group of people who decide they're in control and take matters into their own hands, with disregard for the institution they're working for, disregard for the country they're in, disregard for the people they're there to protect and serve. And what those people do is criminal, right? And we've seen that with the charges of those 4 officers. But
Yeah.
there are obviously also still a lot of very, very good police officers, men and women, who are 100%
Yep.
there to protect and serve citizens all around the world. But I think we shouldn't think of police all as kind of bad or all trying to push their own agenda. But it does really put some questions in my mind, at least, about, at a state level, a county level, things like that. Like, what kind of vetting do these guys do? It almost seems non-existent, the type of vetting they do, because there is no way, if you have a proper vetting process, that a lot of these people and their personalities would ever, be allowed to be serving police officers, let alone for however long some of these guys have been police officers for. So, yeah, I'm baffled, man.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say so at the time of this recording, so Derek Chauvin, the police officer with his knee on George Floyd's neck for 9 minutes. 9 minutes. I couldn't fathom. And he was charged with second-degree murder, and it was actually updated to second-degree murder. It was initially given as a third-degree murder charge. And the other 3 officers are facing charges with aiding and abetting second-degree murder whilst committing a felony, and with aiding and abetting a second-degree manslaughter. And both of those charges that were given have been categorized as unintentional felonies. Okay. So what is a second-degree murder? It's whoever causes the death of a human being without intent to affect the death of any person whilst committing or attempting to commit a felony offence other than criminal sexual conduct in the first or second degree with force or violence or a drive-by shooting. Someone found guilty faces a prison sentence of no more than 40 years. So that was given to Derek Chauvin. Now, that was a charge given. Whether that actually occurs and goes through,
that's
a
the
different
big
story.
thing. I don't know when the trial for that will be, but the trial and the conviction is going to get a lot of media hype. And I think if the problem really is deep rooted in America, like I think it is, I don't think the trial will be happening anytime soon. I think they will long it out, wait for the kind of focus that there is around everything right now to kind of die away a little bit before having the trial. Because if they go straight into a trial now, regardless of what the outcome is, I think it will be chaos.
Still, yeah. Now let's run some. I got a few facts here as well. So, USA has, to put it into perspective, around 300 million people, right? 21%. They have 21% of the world's prison population. So, out of 7 billion people, they have 21% of the prison population. And 1/3 of those are African American, right? An African American man is likely to go to jail in their lifetime, and that's 1 in 3 African American men. 1 in 3 African American men are likely to go into jail in their lifetime. For white males, that's 1 in 17. I think that puts into perspective this talk about white privilege. More than 5 times likely to go into jail just because of the colour of your skin. And this has always been a problem. If you've not watched, documentaries or programs like Roots, or if you've got Netflix, which I'm sure most of you guys have, watch a program called The 13th. Talks about the 13th Amendment. And you'll really get an understanding, an idea of how much these people have to deal with on a daily basis. Things that other people don't even think about during their lifetime. Whether it be, don't wear a hoodie, don't walk like this, don't go out to this place. I really think that puts into perspective on how fortunate some people are, and how fortunate some people are to even help as well. And that's why when I see on social media, no one posting anything, it creates a little bit of anger inside of me. And then I remember, not everyone thinks the same as you. Yeah.
So I want to talk about racism here in the UK, because obviously many of the folk watching this podcast most likely will be from the UK, and as I said right at the beginning of this episode, I don't want anyone to think that racism is just one, an American issue, and two, just a black issue as well. So and this is by no means detracting from the Black Lives Matter kind of movement. I fully understand and fully behind why that needs to be the focus. But what I want to do is for the people maybe in the UK watching this who are not fully kind of aware of the fact that racism is still rife here in the UK, I want to talk about a personal experience that I had with racism, and maybe Shomer, if you feel like you want to share something, go ahead as well. But
can do, yeah.
I want to talk about two instances, and they're both were in the work environment, and I'm not going to say employers or anything like that, because that's not necessary to make the point. So one instance was I was at a work event talking to kind of senior people in large groups, kind of like a networking event. It was out and about in the sun on a really nice, like, kind of summer's afternoon, summer's evening, and we were talking about for whatever reason we were talking about kind of sun cream and stuff like that, right? And someone who was of a very senior grade, we were talking about it, and he went to me, Kieran, it's fine, it's calm, you don't need to worry about suntan, you're all cool, right? And at the time, me, like the other people that were there, we kind of just laughed it off as ha 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 ha. He made a funny comment. And for me, like, over the course of this last week, reading about things and watching things, I kind of reflected on some of my own experiences, and that one really stuck out for me. And the reason it really stuck out for me was both myself, my other colleagues that were there, both white and of other races, we all laughed it off and moved on like it was nothing. We fully just accepted that comment, and I was guilty of it too, because I did as well. At that time when that happened, I didn't I didn't really worry about it or anything like that. And it was something that, particularly this week, thinking about it, I was like, you know what, that isn't right. Someone is, even if it was not a malicious statement, it is someone making a judgment or a statement based on the color of my skin, not something I did or something I said or anything like that. Purely based on the color of my skin. Now that, if anyone watching is under any illusion, that is racism. It's making a judgment or a statement about a person solely on the color of their skin. That exists here. That exists here in the UK. It's on our doorsteps, and we can stand there alongside our kind of American friends and colleagues and peers. But don't ever think that it's not here, and that there is also an issue right here in the UK to solve as well.
Yeah, like I saw a video on. Oh, sorry. But I quickly saw a video on social media how it was outside a shopping mall. I think Tesco or something. Supermarket. Sorry, it was outside Tesco, and police had handcuffed. There was 3 people in a group. 2 of them black, 1 of them white. They only handcuffed the 2 black people. It definitely does exist here. Like, open your eyes, go outside, and you'll see it. It just does. It definitely does. Sorry. Continue.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. It does exist, and yeah, anyone under the illusion that it doesn't exist, I'm sorry, but you're wrong. You're just plain wrong. I can't agree with you on this. I can agree to disagree on certain things. This is not another one, and maybe I'm going to share another story as well, because this is actually quite therapeutic for me, without sounding too selfish. But for those of you guys who've known me for a while or watched my content for a while, you know that I haven't always had a beard. I've probably had this for maybe 3-4 years, but prior to that, I was like a little baby, all clean shaven. And obviously I then grew the beard over the course of like 6 months or whatever. Kind of got it to kind of roughly where the kind of state it's in now. And again, this was in a work setting, and someone goes, "Bloody hell, you look like a terrorist now, Kieran." And again, I was probably in the wrong for kind of brushing it away and going, "Ha ha 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 ha, aren't you funny?" But bro,
it's just straight racist.
There's no like, I don't even understand why someone would say that. It's got nothing to do with me. It's got nothing to do with people with beards. Like what? And thinking about it more this week, I'm like, what goes through a person's mind when they say something like that? I really, really don't understand. But it is those people that we need to educate the most, because as much as it is about kind of the people who understand the issue trying to raise awareness for it, it's as much as we got to meet people in the middle here, because you've got on one side you've got people who understand the issue and really want to reform it, and on the other hand you've got people who either don't accept the issue exists or accept the issue exists and still kind of uses their privilege.
Goes about that day.
Yeah, uses their privilege.
Yeah.
So we have to pull those people in, and then we have to push stuff from the people who understand the awareness to meet in the middle to try and find a solution. And so I actually feel a little bit kind of sorry and empathetic for the people who come up with comments like that, because what's wrong up here, man? What's wrong up here that makes you feel that that is the right thing to say? I don't have the answer for that, but it's something that I've definitely become more aware of it, and which is why I'm trying to be as vocal and proactive about the whole Black Lives Matter movement as I can now, because one, I kind of have this platform now, even if it's small, and I have this opportunity to do this, but two, I don't know exactly what it feels like for them, but I can empathize based on my experiences.
100%.
But yeah, I guess Shumer, I guess what is a big part of this, and I want to get your thoughts on, is the solution, right? Or what are the steps to a solution? What in your mind, I guess, based on what you've seen and read and heard, what do you think are kind of the steps that maybe we as individuals or kind of larger organizations can take to get to this goal that we need to get to?
Yeah, so I feel like with all of this going on, actually, it's made me think about how I betray myself as well. Because, dude, we're all guilty of it. We're all guilty of laughing things off. We're all guilty of saying things as well.
Yeah.
And it's about that slippery slope, isn't it? Once they say something and you laugh it off, that's it. You've given them the gateway to say, oh, you know what, it's fine. You can call me this. You can say this about me. You can stereotype me in this way. And it's about shutting that off now. It's really about actually being switched on. And jokes always have something behind them. They always have a second agenda behind them. It's whether they want to release something that they want to say, which in most cases is racist, or they think it's okay to say that. And I think with looking back, actually, you like how you've said, being guilty of it, of laughing it off. I've done that so many times. I would even make jokes about myself just to get laughs. Yeah, because I'm predominantly around white people, and I know that kind of shock factor will get laughs. It will get it won't be so uncomfortable that it would be like weird, and it will be just enough that it's hilarious. So I think that puts an end to it. That's a solution for everyone. Man, even if you're white, you can still stereotype yourself and people can still be racist to you. Like, it's not just the colour thing.
Yeah,
you know
I
what I mean?
understand what you're saying.
It's drawing lines. It is really, really drawing lines now. And it's also about, another solution is calling people out. People out. When they say something, you say something. Call them out. Make them feel uncomfortable. I don't care if it's your friend or your family or whoever. Call them out. Let them know that it's not okay. Because it's very easy to just be like, oh, like, it was a joke, blah, 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 blah. No. Like...
There's no jokes. There's no jokes when it comes to this stuff, right? And I think you're completely right.
Yeah, because it carries through so much. And I even had to call myself out. You know me, we've talked about music. My favourite artists are mostly black. I got Jay-Z, Kanye West, like Drake, and these people like Kendrick and stuff, and they say the N-word. I mean, just listen to N-words in Paris. Like, how can you not go about singing that song without saying the N-word? Do you know what I mean? And I called myself out, and I was like, no, that also stops as well. Even if it's within your own four walls,
100%.
It's because you then build the comfortability to say that.
Yeah.
And I think speaking up against any injustice, I think, you're absolutely correct. Everyone has a platform now. Everyone has, their social media. They've got TikTok that has thousands of views. They've got YouTube that gets views. They've got Instagram with followers. They've got Facebook with friends and family. People have a platform to speak. Speak up on when you see something unjust. And say something about it. Be the person to say something about it. Because if you don't say something about it, no one else is going to say something about it. And I even put a tweet just before this podcast as well. Like, you don't have to be black to stand up against racism or fight against racism. Actually, it's probably better if you're not black or you're not coloured and doing that. It shows that you're on the side of anti-racism, being against racism.
I think it's...
So that's another solution.
Yeah, I think it's so there's that saying often, right, with charitable giving, that charity starts at home. And I think it's the same here.
Yeah.
Change starts at home. It's calling out your friends, calling out your family where they say things. Maybe it's even your elders who often, kind of just
are probably more likely to say it as well. Actually,
and I'm not necessarily blaming them or anything. It's kind of just ignorance, right? It's kind of ignorance.
Yeah.
But educating them, calling them out, but not calling them out to criticize them, but calling them out to educate them.
Definitely to help.
100%.
Yeah.
I almost feel like we kind of should have like an amnesty where we go, look, right, guys, what we're going to do is if there's any time that you feel like you've either been racist or there's been a racist incident, in your group of friends or your workplace or something, we got 1 week where there'll be no repercussions. No one's going to get mad. No one's going to, raise formal complaints or anything like that. But just get it all out.
Yeah.
Get it all out.
Yeah.
Maybe looking back on things, maybe you made a mistake. Or looking back on things, maybe you didn't realize what you were saying. Maybe in hindsight, you didn't educate yourself enough and you said something, but actually you realized the severity of what you said. That kind of release may be really, really helpful.
It would make a huge difference as well.
And I think, as I said right kind of towards the beginning of this, right, like starting at home, it might be a small change. It might be kind of something small that really starts out. Maybe the way you say something or the way your parents talk about something or whatever. But it's those small changes that, when added up, make a big change. I think that's what we've all got to keep in mind as we try and all find a solution to this. But I think there's also kind of two other elements I feel in terms of solution, right? So for me, there's business and politics. So on a business side, for me, that is about companies kind of walking the walk, right? I've seen numerous posts this week on all sorts of social media and in the internet stuff about how companies are standing with their employees, standing against Black Lives Matter and all this type of stuff. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. What I'm saying is your actions sometimes in the past have spoken very differently to how to what you're saying right now, right? I'm going to take the NFL as an example, right? It's not the only example, but it's the one that first came to mind, right? We had the issue with, not the issue, but we had the protest from Colin Kaepernick a couple of years ago where he decided to take the knee during the national anthem. And he was made to appear like a villain for doing that. Not because he was there to protest a cause, using the platform he has to inspire a generation to get behind a movement to enforce and enact change. Not that he was vilified for disrespecting the country that gave him an opportunity to play the sport he loves and gave him kind of the life he has. He was made to be a villain for that, and he was ultimately forced out of the NFL and has subsequently, had a few trials here or there, but has almost been locked out of the NFL.
Yeah.
How can both the NFL and every single team stand there and say Black Lives Matter when their actions have so clearly stated the complete opposite? Now, that's one example, but what I really, really want to see, and I implore, I beg companies to not just post something now, but I want to see a post from you in 1 month time, in 6 weeks time, in 3 months time. I want to see what you're doing. I don't want to see
continuous support.
I don't want to see that you stand alongside people, that you support other people. That is not going to solve the problem. Do you want to be? Do you really want to be part of the solution? Is my question, right? If you really do want to be part of the solution, then make sure you have task force within your company to start looking at solutions, and then you actually act on them, and then you actually report on them externally, be it in annual reports, be it on social media. Like, I come back to it. Do you just want to tick a box right, to show that you stand with this campaign, or do you actually want to be part of the solution?
The PR stunt.
Yeah. Do you really care about this? Do you really care about the Black lives in your organization? Because if you do, you will put in place the actions that really lead to change. And as I said, in more cases, if lots of organizations start doing that, it then builds up. You then create momentum, and it then becomes the norm.
Yeah.
It becomes the norm it becomes the blueprint for all organizations to follow. So I don't want to see, after this week, any more posts about we are, Black Lives Matter an organization, we have a BAME community, any of that rubbish. I want to see what actions you either have taken or are discussing about taking, and then I want you to show progress on those. That is what I want from the business community. The business community is incredibly powerful, and it has a lot of kind of influence in the world we live in. We all buy from companies, we all work for companies.
Probably a bit too much influence.
That's a whole different capitalism question, but they do, right? We have to accept the role that organizations and businesses have in the world today. They are a big part of the solution. They have to be a big part of the solution. Yeah. And I think some organizations realize that, and the organizations that realize that they would be nothing without society are the ones that kind of get it and do the things. The ones that think they're bigger than the companies that think they're bigger than people and that they're bigger than kind of the world around them. Those are the ones that will ultimately fail, because they will miss the boat on this. They will miss the boat on being part of change, and things will be forced on them in the future. And that's not a position any business 100%. Wants to be in, right? But I think that the other kind of part of the solution that I want to talk about, we haven't really talked about too much, and I'm not really going to talk too much about it because I'm not the most versed in it, but it's about the kind of politics and politicians side of this. Right. They are arguably the biggest change makers in all of this. Politicians, both here in the UK, in the US, be it from your local MP all the way up to your Prime Minister or President, these are the people that can actually put pen to paper, make decisions that actually change the world we live in. Yeah. The reason they're elected is they're elected and have to go through so many hurdles to get to the positions they're in, is because they then in the positions they're in now, they have the power to do those things. Which is why it's super important to make sure that every single one of us gets our opportunity to get our voice and opinion heard through that person we elect. So making sure that you go and vote for your local MP if you're here in the UK, going out and making sure you're voting for like councillors, not just in the general election or kind of losing faith with politics, because those are the guys that hold the pen in all of this, right? Don't forget that. So they 100%. they can be a huge ally to helping us achieve this kind of golden outcome that we've talked about. So I kind of say to everyone, and even myself, I need to understand politics more, and I want to understand politics better, because it is a key to not only this issue that we're trying to solve, but so many other issues. And politics, and by voting, it's a way for you to get your voice heard when that pen goes on the paper, which is why I think there's 3 levels of solution. There's the first one, which you mentioned and you explained really, really well, which was about the individual level. But for me, there's the organizational and political level as well. And all of those things together are the things that, for me, put us on the path to kind of where we want to be.
Yeah, and I think people listen to this don't think that governments stop racism. No, like you stop it. Yeah. There's no law to say that you cannot dislike this person. Yeah, you have to find it within yourself. You have to become self-aware. You have to actually understand humanity. You have to understand that we are all in this together, and that there is no, my agenda, your agenda. It's a collective, and if you think about it, if we just work together, so many more things get done. Look at these protests, people working
100%.
together. What was it? All 50 states. I got 18 countries protesting. It's been the largest protest in the world. Yeah, bigger than the civil rights movement, right? Be a part of this. Do you want to look back and your kids are like, "Mummy, Daddy, what did you do?"
Yeah.
And you were like, "Oh, I was looking at some sneakers, or I was looking at some Fortnite game." Be a part of this, man.
You don't want to be on the sidelines of history for this.
Get yourself versed, so when your child asks you, what happened here, you have the answers.
You know what? Even if it's from a selfish perspective, right? So that you want to say to your kids in the future,
even if it's
I played a part in, reforming kind of how we view Black lives in our country and around the world. Even if it's so that just so you can feel proud about saying, go for it, do it. At the end of the day, everyone benefits from that, right? You have the self-pride that you can tell your kids and grandkids that, but also we have the bigger benefit, which is actually reform and change. But yeah, cool. I think we'll leave it at that one, guys. Please let us know, I guess, your thoughts on either what we've said or your experiences. We're kind of happy to talk about this more. I think it's something that, as we've talked about, or I particularly talked about, it's kind of something that's close to my heart and something I want to keep trying to do things around. So let us know your thoughts. I think maybe next week we might try and return to something a little lighter, but I still think we want to keep this theme going because we cannot stop until things change. And if that means us talking about things every week, if that means us having to attend protests every week, if that means us having to post stuff, watch stuff every week, then so be it.
So be it. Because this won't be the end of it. We would like to think it's going to be the end of it, but this won't be the end of it. Because everyone listening to this, thank you for listening right now, but go and watch 13th on Netflix. You watch all these other episodes and stuff. Take an hour out your day to watch 13th. It'll open your eyes to so many things, and it'll make you realize that this has gone on for ages and it's just been redesigned in different ways, but the intent and the reasoning all behind all of this has been the same. So that's why we're so urging to do your part, to go and vote, to boycott, to government's defunding, to signing the petitions, to giving donations, to spreading awareness, to educating yourself, to pressing them goddamn links. It's not hard.
Yeah.
Do it.
Cool. I guess the final thought I'd say is to anyone watching this, anyone where we share this, don't be on the sidelines of history for this.
No, it will suck.
Be part of the change.
Yeah.
Be part of the change for your own benefit and for the benefit of Black lives all across the world. But yeah, thank you guys for watching this one. Shimmer and I, I'm glad you made it through. If you've made it this far, then thank you. I think we're like nearly 50 minutes in. So
yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a long one, but yeah, thank you guys for watching. Appreciate you kind of taking the time and supporting these kind of videos. And we'll catch you on the next one.
Peace.